Yo, party people, what is up? This is K-Murdock. I'm here with Harvey Newman. We are Proxima Studios, and this is for the players. And first off, Harvey, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, man. I'm doing fine. How you doing, Kay?
I'm good. We were just talking offline just about getting prepared for Gamescom. Not to date this show, because the idea is to always do stuff that's what they call evergreen. That means you can listen 100%. And not know when things happen, but at the same time, you can't help but talk about the fact that that is huge, and that is what is on deck, and all hands are on deck as we try to get ready for, showing the latest progress of Worship Jolly Roger at Gamescom. Is there anything you wanted to talk about? Like anything you're looking forward to in particular? This will be your second, or which one of this before you?
Via Proxima, second. Via Proxima.
Okay,
second.
But overall, how many Gamescoms have you gone to?
I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7, something like that.
Okay, got you.
It's been a while. It's been like a few times now, which is good. Okay. It's really good. But like this one's special via Proxima. Right. And like going to Gamescom, I'm always looking forward to getting all the nerd gear, all the nerd stuff going over there. My wife is coming with me this time. She's
nice.
Actually, so she's helping me out with a lot of stuff business-wise, like, because I'm feeling like lately when I go by myself or even going with you guys,
it's overwhelming.
It's really overwhelming. And also like you have to keep track of the notes, what has been said in the meeting, who did you meet, positive, negatives, just for future reference, because you have so many of these meetings that you lose track. And sometimes you just repeat mail publishers and investors, which looks incredibly bad. All of a sudden you're like, hello, we never met. You're just like, what do you mean? So it actually helps out to have somebody with you, so she can take the notes and she can basically keep abreast of all the things.
Man. She'll do a great job. If your wife, I'm sure from us talking offline, is similar to my wife. And just to be honest with you, like, women get stuff done. They're so good at multitasking. Oh my God. If I could hire my wife to be I don't want to say my assistant, but manage me or something, I would in a heartbeat. But she's a 100%. Teacher and works in education.
Like Camille actually studied business, so it's kind of like connected in a way.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So she's kind of doing what she studied, but she's just not doing it for others. She's doing it for us now. So it kind of works out well.
All in the family. I did not know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. It came out to be organically, which we're incredibly happy with. And then, she like what I say to her is like, she's my second brain. She hates that. She doesn't like me. Like, I hope she doesn't listen to the podcast, but like, almost like, you know what I mean? Like, cause I need more time and space to do more things. And she thinks about things in a different way that I do, because she's way better at being thorough at reading through documents, invoicing, all these other things. And being an artist myself, those things to me are boring. So
I'm with you.
So I appreciate her for what she does, because she actually has different skills than mine, and we kind of complement each other. So it's all good.
Right. Oh man. Well, hey, better half, right? 100%, that's what they say.
100%. Yeah.
Well, switching gears a little bit from, talking about something that's so great, like our better halves, to talking about something that's not so great in the industry right now. And it seems like every time, particularly I'm on LinkedIn or I get some kind of article from Kotaku or IGN, it's about another studio being shuttered and more layoffs happening. And here we are now, coming up into the third quarter. And I know a lot of people are like, hey, it's going to get better going into 2025. But man, it's not looking so hot right now. So someone who's worked in this industry for 2 decades plus, like, what do you like? What's the reading the room, reading the temperature? What do you think, or what do you see happening?
I see just, Mad Max. When you watch Mad Max, you know how people.
You talking about for sure, for sure.
Movie? You know how you feel about, like, when you see all these things going on in Mad Max, or like with the world being desolate and like the world kind of falling apart. It kind of feels that way right now in the games industry. It's really sad to see, and like there's so many things going on at the moment that are like there are lots of positives, but there's so many negatives that people kind of focus on that, and I think that absolutely like lots of bad transactions, lots of like lack of vision for the future and stuff. And the latest one being Bungie and Sony acquiring Bungie, and then all these jobs being like people being laid off, and then also people
Right.
being moved into absorbed into Sony. And Bungie's Destiny is now kind of like suffering from it. It's difficult to discern if is Destiny now worse because of the acquisition, or was it going to always be this way? And now that the acquisition happened and all these things happened and people got laid off, then obviously it might just equal that Destiny is definitely going to go out, or like be canceled or something like that. So I don't know, it's just like lots of bad stuff on top of bad stuff in Microsoft and Activision and EA, and like all the big players are kind of suffering right now. And I feel like 2K probably, if they didn't have GTA, and GTA was not just about to release whenever it releases this year, next year, whatever.
Right.
I feel like 2K games will probably be going through the same thing. You know what I mean?
Wow. It's
Yeah.
definitely, I mean, again, as someone who's kind of still finding my way and finding out a lot more now, working, with Proxima and stuff,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
seeing all these studios that, I was just talking to a friend of mine about this, like studios that like you thought would just be not, I guess, bulletproof or around for a long time because of the success of so many IPs. Like specifically, I was talking to someone about was it Tango Gameworks and
Mhm.
Japan Studio,
That's
and
it.
the IPs they've been associated with, and yet both of those studios are no longer happening. And like, so I'm like, what is it, man? Because it's like one thing if a studio makes an IP that just doesn't do well, right? Like
Mm.
financially, it doesn't get the acclaim, whatever. But these studios are putting out games that are like game of the year contenders. They seem to do well financially. So what the hell is going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody's safe.
Nobody's safe. And we talked about this in a previous episode, but like anybody that
Right?
tells you like, "Well, I know exactly what's going on and I know exactly when this is going to finish
It's
and I know
bullshit.
exactly where we're going," exactly, it's bullshit, because like nobody knows at this point exactly where we're going, and this is
Right?
like uncharted waters. And I don't think anybody, as bad as you have seen the industry before, I don't think we ever seen the industry this bad. Maybe like if you were like in the 1980s or so, when like
Right?
Nintendo was about to fall off and the Ataris of the world closed in and closed up and
Right?
stuff. Maybe then, right? But the market was way smaller than it is nowadays.
Right?
And what's crazy is that like there's so many companies closing and there's so many redundancies, but games are making more money than ever. So like it doesn't make sense. Like
It
there's less
doesn't make
jobs.
sense.
Yeah, there's less jobs for less people, and but games are still coming out and they are still making more money than ever. So where are we going to end up in? And like there's like for all those that are listening right now, there's a couple of like guides of that you can track how many people got laid off online. So if you actually just search for game layoff tracker, there's a couple of them. There's actually layoffstracker.com, and there's also like
Holy
one
shit.
one done in Obsidian, and like there's also
What is the
Observable.
number at? Like, what
Oh,
is the number at? I'm
I
curious.
think it's like 20,000, something like that.
What?
It's crazy. Like I'm trying to actually look it up right now. But
Okay.
like it's actually like it's crazy. It's like it's the amount of like layoffs and people kind of like being laid off is incredible. Yeah, and it started from like January this year. As soon as
Right.
we like hit like next year, the new year, and every single month there's been like new layoffs as we actually go through. And it's super sad. It's super sad. Yeah,
In
I
your experience in the past, like, I noticed from, like there's a certain kind of ebb and flow with this stuff, particularly in like the industries and media industries that I've been in, as far as like when you hires usually occur. And I know a lot of it is based on fiscal year and all that stuff,
yeah,
but
yeah.
is it different? Like what is the trend like, say, for gaming? Like when is the right time to try to look for a job in gaming, and when is the time when people are like bracing for impact because they know
Yeah.
layoffs are going to occur?
So there's a saying somewhere, like I'm gonna paraphrase really badly, but like when there's actually like lots of bad stuff happens, normally there's also a lot of opportunities for others, right? It's almost like the
Right.
stock market, right?
Right.
Opportunities, or basically bad news, it really depends on the eye of the beholder. So I first and foremost, I think that because there's been so many layoffs, there's lots of talent out there for people, for companies to actually grab. So people like companies like ours, Proxima and others that are coming
Right.
up now, before getting access to certain people would be super hard because they work at Blizzard or they work at EA or they work at 2K Games.
Right.
And us will never be able to match their salary because we're an up and coming studio, and until
Right.
we've been doing this for 10 years, 5 years, that we're getting like the big bucks, the millions and millions of dollars, cannot just have like AAA quality of like AAA matching of salary. It's impossible. But now people are seeing it differently, which is great, right? So once again, great opportunities because then you're more excited. You join a brand new studio with a nice IP and it's different, cool. But there is certain times that people can actually get hired into the industry, and this might change once again because the industry is changing so much.
Right.
But it used to be end of the year, beginning of the year. That's basically where things happen the most, right? So normally around September or so, companies start ramping up their hiring. Normally because they want to release a game at the end of the year, or they want to release a game at the beginning of the next year. So that's normally when people actually get hired. Full-time contracting, that's also a massive difference. Some people actually go into full-time jobs, great. Most people, especially in the US, there's lots of contracting going on, which can be good and bad because, especially with the climate that there is right now, you might
Right.
be hired for 6 months, finish the game, get that game in your resume, but then you only be working on the game for 6 months, polishing
6
some
months.
stuff, and
Right.
then you're off again, trying to find another job again, right? So, you know, it's everybody's looking for stability, and yeah, it's just you do the best you can with what you have at this
Right.
point.
There's a expression I know that people say a lot when it comes to like, especially with contracting, that I've heard a lot, and
Mm.
fortunately, have never been a victim of it. But it's like last hired, first fired,
Yeah,
in the
a hundred
sense of,
percent.
is that
Yeah.
usually also happen too? Like, cause it's just, I know for a fact, like, I've talked to friends when we were at GDC, I ran into a friend of mine. I won't say where he worked, but he was just like, yeah, I was working on this project. I just got hired, and a few months into it, they were like, we're closing the studio and
Yep.
shuttering the IP. And he was
Complete.
just like, it sucked because he was like, I left a pretty steady other contracting guys. I put all that stuff aside because this was promised to be, I was locked in. And
Yep.
then he was, he's gone now, and now he's jobless. So,
Yeah. No, completely. Like I was talking with another friend that actually the same thing happened, and it was basically like from a big company, right? And he was there for, I think it was about a good 5 years, 6 years, I want to say. And they were working on a brand new IP that hasn't been released. He was like super excited and stuff. And then because there was acquisitions and buyings and sellings and stuff, the first thing that they did when they actually were acquired is they basically just demolished all the IPs that were in progress that were not released and just kept the
wow.
IPs that were released already, which meant that in 6 years he actually worked a lot in games, but then he doesn't really have nothing to show for it.
To show for it.
And he
Wow.
cannot put it on his show reel or his portfolio. He cannot talk about it. He's the NDA on it, so it's very much like nothing has happened. Plus, they generally go, as you mentioned, like from first to last, right? So if you've
Right.
been in the company for 20 years, then actually counts way more than somebody that has been here for 6 months, because
Right.
normally the payout, whatever like payout that they
Yeah,
have
it's
to
it's graded
employee,
for the longer you've been there for your
exactly, and
severance.
then
Yeah.
if you've been in the company for 20 years, I mean, the person probably leaves with a salary that they can just now retire
They
on or
probably don't have to work for
something.
a couple years, right?
At the very
Right,
least,
right,
while the
right.
guy that actually started 6 months ago probably doesn't get anything because he's on the contract that they're still in probation or whatever it is. So, yeah, man, things get really cutthroat. And the worst thing of it all is that when you are in a company that you really, really love and you actually kind of like thought of getting into all of your career because there's these big companies working these big IPs that are Call of Duty or Overwatch or whatever. And
Right.
you basically, this is your dream come true and you've been there and you worked on it and you're loving it. and then being heartbroken by a company, but basically the company mistreating you in anyways. It can be like something as simple as you've been here for less than 6 months, therefore you get nothing. So
Hmm.
go, and then no more healthcare, no more nothing, no more salary. Or it
Right.
can be even worse, where they actually like genuinely like escort people to the door because they don't want people to take any secrets with them, right?
I've
Like
seen
I mean,
that. I've seen
yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely, me too. And I mean, having that happening in a company that you really love, and you're there not only because of the work that you're doing, but because you genuinely love their games and you grow up playing their games, it's a big heartbreak, man. It's
Right.
something that it goes. People don't talk about that because it's all about the money and
Right.
but that's actually part of the issue as well.
Wow, man. I mean, just what you said about the fact that, your friend 6 years, it's almost like he was in a cryo chamber for 6 years, because it's like the 6 years have happened and he can't talk even like, so
No,
how do you even like update your resume? You say, I've been doing this, but what have you been doing? Because I know in
yeah,
media, it's all about credits and credentials and
100%.
what have
Yeah,
you shipped and what have you shot, whatever. So
yeah,
that, I mean, whatever. I know that's like, for me saying that sucks is not even doing it justice. But I'm like,
yeah,
what the fuck do you do? Like, how do you show that
yeah,
you
yeah.
can work? Like,
Nothing. Yeah, and the thing, the saddest thing is that if you go in, and this is just an example out of thin air,
Mhm.
but if you go and say, I worked at EA or Blizzard for 6 years, and they
Right.
go, so what is your show reel? And be like, I don't have one, right? They were like, but surely you must have something because you've been there for
Right.
6 years. Just like, I don't have any, and that's something that I did as well in the beginning, and you're kind of
Okay.
innocent. And I go on about my YouTube videos about you should always be working on your show reel, personal show
Right.
reel,
Have something. Right.
have something on the side, so you basically that's yours. Nobody can take it from you because
Right. Right.
when I got into the industry after working so hard for so many years, I'm like, I'm working full time. I'm getting paid a good salary, and I'm working in a company that I absolutely love, working in an IP that is going to be massive. So I
Right.
have to do nothing when I get home because I'm working so
Right.
hard already. And then when the game comes out, I can just showcase what I'm going to do in the game or what I've done
Right.
in the game. And then
Right.
Bob's your uncle. Like I'm sorted for the next job if I need one, right?
Right. Right. Right.
But what happens if the game doesn't come out, right?
Right.
That's the problem because you spend so much time working on that game, then you have absolutely nothing, and you have been doing nothing on your spare time. So it's hard, man. It's really hard. It's never been safe, the games
Right.
industry, but just now it's just way worse.
I feel like every episode we wind up making a detour back to talking about your time at Lionhead and in Fable Legends.
It was a
But
good time. It was
that
a good time.
well, no, I know, and you spoke
Yeah.
very glowingly about it. You even said that you meet up with some of the guys who worked on the team still regularly now, after all
Yeah.
these years. But in that case, with your time there, were you able, and I mean, obviously there was already stuff put out to promote the game and people saw it, so it's not like you worked
Yeah.
on something that people never knew was going to be in existence. but
Yeah.
but after the layoffs and stuff and the studio whatever like killed the game,
Yeah.
were you able to, like, are you able to put that stuff in your reel, like anything from Fable
From
Legends
Fable
or?
Legends, you can
Yeah.
actually put the stuff that all the characters that have been like announced. Like
Okay.
that's
Okay.
basically what it is. Like the work that you've done of characters that have been announced and is already out there on the internet. Great.
You can't.
Otherwise,
Right. Right.
you can't.
Okay.
And
Okay.
what happens as well is that a lot of people, even though they cannot show the show reel to the public, right? What you end up doing is that because you have some work that maybe you took it, because sometimes you can even take the work outside of the company because of,
Wow.
I don't know, IT or because of reasons, but
Right.
sometimes you
Right.
can even like save it anywhere. Like I've been in companies that the USBs are disabled, so you cannot plug any USB drive, so you can do the thing. Or
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or you can't send emails to yourself or outside of the company. It needs to be on within the company's
Wow.
network. If it goes outside of the company, immediately gets blocked. So things like that. So you can't really save your work outside of the workspace, which
Right.
then makes it even more hard. But if you do have it, right, you normally can show those things behind closed doors in an interview to a potential employee, and that's basically when you actually enter that desperation because you need to show something for the time that you
Hmm.
actually were there. and then you show it, but you show it behind closed doors. You don't really share it
Right.
with them directly in a link. You take your USB, you put it on their computers, or take your disc like back in the day, a
Right.
DVD,
Right. Right.
showcase it, and then take it back with you to make sure that they don't have it. Things like that, right? Like for your eyes only kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this industry is really secretive. So when it comes to sharing things, NDAs and stuff, things really enforce it. People will enforce it, and companies will enforce it. So
Wow, man.
yeah,
The other thing I was curious about when we were just talking about that, like of just like people from bigger studios and how you can possibly now recruit them to say even a studio like ours, because obviously we can't go public about certain people on our team, but
yeah,
there are some people, I mean yourself included, who have lots of experience on the AAA level, right?
yep,
But so how is that? So when a person who's worked on a AAA game tries to get recruited by like say a studio like ours and speaking this into existence and say God,
yeah,
Lord willing, we're funded and we have the money.
yep.
Is it hard to get those people because like you said, we can't match what say a EA or Rockstar or 2K
Yeah.
is going to be paying those people? How else can you incentivize those people to come to the team? What are some of the other things you can do?
Yeah, great questions. We touched on it, like I think on the last episode, the episode before.
Right.
But basically, I think that what's happening, and this is something that is unspoken, like people haven't spoken about this so far, but there is, I think, people of two minds. I think, like young developers that are just getting started in the industry and they're finding this mess. And I think as a young developer, what you want is basically build a CV or portfolio, resume of good titles, right? So you can have that backing because before you get in the industry, the only thing you see is like you need to have 3 AAA titles in your resume, or you need to have like 3 years of experience working in different titles, or
Right.
something along those lines. So it's
Right.
been drilled in your mind that you need to have experience and titles, and the bigger the title, the better it looks in your resume. So you're looking to get that. So in order for you to get there, you need to go to certain places. But now it's kind of weird, right? Because if you go to EA or Microsoft or 2K Games, what's going to happen with your job 5 years from now or 2 years from now?
Right.
Things can be a little bit, iffy. So I think that there's a change now that most like young developers actually are seeing AA and indie development as like what they want to do, and they
Okay.
are willing to work extra hard to actually kind of like make sure that that works out, right? It's a different mindset because it's not just like you sit in your desk 8 hours a day and then like 5 days a week and then you get a game out and then Bob's your uncle, you're good to go. It's much harder. But with the event of YouTube and sharing knowledge online, I think most people know what it takes to actually be an indie developer and how hard it is. So when you get into that industry in a company like ours, you know what to expect. So that's basically one side of the equation. For people like us, for studios like us, like for young developers, it's all about like how cool does the game look and how much potential does it have to actually add to my skills as a developer, right? I don't know if the studio is going to be massive. I don't know if the game is going to be massive, but at least I can showcase this shiny VFX that I've done or
Of
shiny
course.
artwork that I've done on this game that went on to be published by this person, right? Plus, we actually much more flexible, right? So even if the game doesn't succeed, even if we don't actually publish the game, there's studios out there that have been closed right now that allows their employees to publish and to actually showcase their show reel so they can
That's
get
awesome.
jobs somewhere else, right? So because we are so much smaller and is more in the family and we respect each other a lot, for us, it's not like a massive corporation that has to kind of hit certain beats. For us, it's very
Right.
much, oh, he's just Peter. He wants to showcase his stuff. It didn't work out. Yeah, go ahead, Peter. Showcase your stuff. No problem, man.
Nice. Nice.
Hopefully you can get something better. So that's for the young developers. Now, the most experienced developers, those are the most difficult to get, the unicorns. And I think for those, like they saw money, they saw success because now they have all the shiny titles on their resume. They have been working in the industry for quite a while. They've seen a lot of ups and downs and the goods and the bads and things like that. So for them, they're very much of a certain mindset at this point. And with the industry looking this way, a lot of them are feeling like myself, which is very much like I'm kind of tired of the same AAA kind of situation because I feel like there's AAA studios like Lionhead, going back to it, that actually treat you really well. But then there's ones that treat you really, really badly. And that's genuinely like a black and white situation. There's almost like nothing in between. So you either are lucky or not lucky. You get a big paycheck, but you are unhappy, or you get a big paycheck and you might be a little bit happy, but you always feel like you can give more. So it's about giving them more opportunity and more a lane to run in, right? So basically trusting people. It's what I tell you all the time, Kyle. Like, if I bring you on board, is because I trust you, and you as in charge of the audio design and all the stuff like that, then I trust that your choices are the best. So when you tell me that this is going to work out and this is going to be the best, and this audio and this thing and this sound, I'm like, cool, let's try it out, right? And then you have that lane, and you have the assurance, and you have we trust each other, so we actually good on that. And I think that basically is worth more than money to a lot of developers that have been in the industry for so long, because when you work in a massive studio getting the big bucks, you are so shackled. You'll be so surprised. You are incredibly shackled about everything. I mean, because you've been in touch with so many people that work in the industry, and what do they say every single time when it comes to joining our podcast?
Oh yeah, they're like, I gotta ask legal. That's the constant refrain. It's like, I would love to, but I have to talk to the 100%. Check signers and the legal team to make sure it's okay. Like, they were like, I'm not going to say anything, but I have to get. I was like, wow, it's that already. I don't know. It's I don't know. It's like, to me, as someone who's getting into this, hearing of that. They're almost like the Gestapo, like, no, you cannot proceed. Like, I don't like that, because I don't like the gatekeeping shit done in audio, other forms of audio, like in music. So the fact that, I mean, I guess I'm not surprised that it happens in video games, but it's very interesting in video games. Like, at least in music, for the most part, I've never had a situation where like I have to talk to legal, but like video games are so secretive. It's so arcane to some people. So
completely. And given how many people we had here, of the people that you asked, you can already tell what has happened behind the scenes, right?
Right.
Like, in terms of getting a hard no, this is not happening.
Of course. Shoot, even internally on our team, right? How many people, we have a pretty good, believe it or not, people, there's like what, 20, 30, close to 30 people working on this IP.
On and off,
But people are, and I get this, I'm surprised this hasn't come up more. I get it kind of like off the cuff. People are like, how come we don't hear from more people who work at Proxima? And I'm like, now you know why, Exactly.
So, it's hard. It's really hard. And you actually in a constant state of fear as well, because you don't want to piss off the people that I actually, paying you the money and all that stuff.
Paying you the money. Yeah.
So that's basically like the difficulty behind being such a accomplished developer, right? Because you are accomplished, but you're still following these incredibly harsh rules that basically companies have set. So, a lot of the times I felt personally almost like a toddler, like, with a parent kind of going like, nope, not this way, this other way. And it vexes you, and it's horrible, and you are the director of something, but it doesn't feel like it, and it feels horrible. So this is what I mean, like giving people a lane to run in. I know for you, Kyle and Johnny, you guys have been into the indie underground industry in music, and this is basically what you guys know, which is very much that freedom of like, I'm going to make an album with this person, and then we just create. Right?
This
is normal.
There's no red tape, no bureaucracy. I can just do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Somebody coming from mainly AAA titles like myself, that is the dream. Like, you don't even know how that feels. And then when you get that responsibility, you're like, oh my God, this is how we should feel all the time. And how comes I spend so much time working this way when I could be working this other way much better? And this is the beauty of indie games, is that you really can express yourself. This is why you get so much creativity out of them,
Right. Well, it seems like it's just the trade-off, like, because the AAA, I'm sure they'll woo people with money and stocks and this and that. But yeah, creatively, they put it's like you say, okay, give me the money. And when you put your hands out, they put the handcuffs around you, the shackles, and say, okay, we got you now.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. And hope you enjoyed your freedom.
That's it. Like, at least when I was like, when the times were good, and like now, when you could actually go from company to company and actually do lots of like AAA games, like the lore of working for a massive company, like it's sometimes bigger than the shackles. Like for years, like you see the now, if you see the zeros and the money, and you see the
Yeah.
company, and you see the game that you're gonna work on. I'm
Mm.
like for example, when I joined EA, when I went to Dice, and then they show
Mm.
me on my second interview, because I had two interviews. On my second interview, they showed me the game that I was going to work on. It was Star Wars Battlefront 2, which at that point was like a NDA, super secretive. No one
Of
knew
course.
that it was
Of
going
course.
to come out. So I
Right.
saw it. I saw the behind the scenes. They showed me a little bit about the game, some of the ideas they had and stuff. And then they said, and here's the contract. Like, how
Of
can you
course.
say
Yeah.
no
They
to
they they baited you, man. Like they got you.
and on top of that, they took me to Sweden. They flew me to Sweden, everything paid. They actually gave me like a tour of Stockholm, like all paid for with a guide.
Oh
And then on top of
man.
that, they told me like if you join, if you actually say yes, we pay you for like some like your moving company to go to the UK to bring everything to Sweden. We give you accommodation for a couple of months for free, somewhere nice and stuff. And then we unpack everything for you when you find accommodation as well, like everything. They took care of our taxes in Sweden, taxes in the UK. They took care of everything. Like we just had to do nothing to move from the UK to Sweden. It was like so smooth. It was crazy. So once again, how can you say no to that, right? You feel like
Right.
royalty. You
Right.
feel good. You feel like I made it. Like they actually doing
Right.
all this
Right.
for me. Like this is great, right? But
Right.
the more you are there, the more you start. And once again, Battlefront was a wonderful project to work in. But yeah, you start to see the walls. Like to me as well, I wanted to do more, and I couldn't because I was hitting walls. The more I was
Right.
there, the more I was hitting walls, and it becomes frustrating after a while. After a while, you just be like, I just want to have no walls and see what happens. And hence
Right.
why Proxima.
It I mean, you talking about that just makes me think of like situations I've had from working at radio stations to even when I got my record deal with Raucus and Sony,
Yeah,
and how they make you feel like like, oh my god, you're a one of one, and we want you, and we like this is going to be amazing. And
yeah,
then it was always funny seeing the cycle of a new person coming in, and it's like press reset, and that new person is like, oh shit, I thought I was a unicorn. That like they're doing the same thing to woo that person too. And
yeah,
I think maybe you seem to be this way, and I know it probably just our ages and stuff. Where we are in our careers is just that
mm,
I want to be at a place, which is why like I've enjoyed this time at Proxima, is because you want to be at a place where it's not just about you do feel special and you feel appreciated for what you bring to the team, as opposed to I could get anybody, because I mean, let's be honest, Harvey, you could have gotten a lot more seasoned people who really have worked as an audio director in this role, but the fact that you took a chance and gave me this opportunity is something like I really relish and appreciate, because
yeah,
especially as a person of color who looked around the landscape and I don't see anyone like me.
yeah.
It was a thing where I was beginning to think like this was not going to be something that was going to come to fruition for me. So
100%.
I feel like I'm bringing something to the table, and the fact that you keep it very, I think I mentioned this in our last show, that
Yeah.
you keep it very democratic and everyone's opinion matters. It really feels great. And it's just something that you don't see everywhere, because I literally had jobs tell me that I need to be thankful that I'm working for them, which I'm like, holy shit. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was an intern, mind you. It was one of my first radio gigs like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, more than that, really. And the person who was the program director at this radio station was like, you should be thankful you are here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it made me. I mean, back then I was 19, 20. I was like, yes,
You're
I
right.
am.
You're
I'm
right.
thankful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah.
But in hindsight, I'm just like, wow, that was a really fucked up
Harsh.
thing to say. Like, it made me feel like shit. Like,
Of course. Of course. Of course. Yeah, it
anyway,
makes your ego feel small, man. And
it
there's
makes
something
you feel small. Yeah.
exactly. There's something to be said about like, like betting on talent. I think all good ideas come from people that are hungry to get it, right? So
Mm,
that hunger to get it is really important to me as well, right? So you
mm,
had it. I know Johnny has it. I know like everybody, Jason has it. Like everybody in
yes.
the team has that hunger to actually make it happen. And I think that's sometimes you're so experienced and you've been so burned out with all this experience that
Mm,
we've been talking about before, that
right.
people go like, sure, can you pay me the money? No, okay. In that case, I'm not interested. And that's
Right.
basically what ends up being like I'm at the point in my career that I've been through so much that I really don't care about your game. I just care about I can do a good job. I can give you the stuff that you need. Give me the money, pay me the money, and it's all
Right.
good. So they don't even
Right.
see the vision. They don't even see like, the people that work in the company and stuff. So I do think that is much better. I'd rather have 100% of you like coming up with amazing ideas, like the radio. By the way, you guys, this is a bit of a spoiler, but like Kyle Murdock had an amazing idea that he came up with. And the thing is, like the idea that you had about the radio, which I won't say more to not
Right. Yeah.
spoil
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But 100%, if it was a seasoned developer, they might say something along the lines of like, "That's played out. That's been done before. How many times have you heard that since GTA? Many other games I've done it,
Of course.
but they haven't done it how we do it though." And
Right. Right.
that's the thing. That's the thing that excites me because it's like, yeah, I mean, it's radio. I mean, you can find radios everywhere, but
Right.
like when it's really well done and is integrated in the game, and it actually has like a strong meaning and like it's deep within the
Right. Right.
gameplay, like it matters, right? It's not just a radio; it's
Right.
just like a functional thing, and that's
Right.
basically what I actually brought you guys in. Like the whole team is like it's
That's what's
exciting to
up,
me.
right? No,
Yeah.
yeah, it makes me well, it definitely for me substantiates like being part of the team because I was like, well, I know there's certain areas that I'm still getting strengthened in, but I know with the creative stuff and bringing in, I guess, past experiences in radio,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, like let me just try to introduce that, and then the fact that everyone was so receptive to it is really cool. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to implementing that, and I think that's a perfect segue because I have a couple questions, not even a couple, I have a few
Yeah.
questions
Yeah.
from a friend of mine. He told me not to shout him out, but I'll just say it's Dustin from Chicago. And Dustin, speaking of introducing ideas and technologies into how we're doing things at Proxima with the IP we're working on, the first thing he wanted me to ask was, I'm reading this verbatim. He says, "I noticed you guys are partnered with NVIDIA, right? Or
Right.
trying to work with NVIDIA."
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
said, "You guys should talk about," and maybe this is just a future episode we can do. He's like, "Talk about how developing games in combination with emerging technology goes." Like
Oh, that's
working
a
with
great
Kit
question.
Bash, working with NVIDIA, like different people,
Yeah.
like,
100%.
and
Cool.
so that was, I guess, more of a suggestion. He says, like, just to continue, he says, like when real time ray tracing first came out, that was a big deal. Like
Yeah.
how you guys would develop for new software or hardware coming out. What are the, and then so finally a question, what are the pros and cons of developing for emerging tech like NVIDIA and
Yeah.
working and helping them work the bugs out? So
That's
I'm
a
going to
great
definitely
question.
defer to you.
Yeah, that's an amazing question, man. That's really, really cool. Thanks a lot for that. So, like, yeah, it's a great question because like there is games. So there's a lot of games out there that whenever you see like RTX,
Yes.
ray tracing on,
In the
ray tracing
beginning of the
off.
game, like when the loads, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, and all that stuff. A lot of the times, it feels very much like it's just a tech that everybody's using, so let's use it and let's make the most out of it. But I like once again, not because we are special in any ways at Proxima, but I believe that you should only use a specific tech when it fits the game. So if
Right.
the tech doesn't have a use in the game, then it's no use to us. It's not just because it makes the game prettier. It's like, but maybe
Right.
that's not the look that we're going for in the game,
Right.
right? Like, why make it more realistic when maybe our game is not really realistic? Maybe it's cartoony or
Right.
whatever, right? So
Right.
it doesn't really make sense to actually use RTX. So like for us, like I'm not saying that we're not going to use it. I'm just saying that's an example. And I do think that you need to fit the technology within the things that you actually want to do in the game. And if it fits, then great. And in this case, NVIDIA as a partner is great because they have so much tech in so many different things that actually allows us to pick and choose what we're going to use and then basically gamify it and put it in the game in a way that the player doesn't even think about it, right? Like, because the RTX thing, like you did see a lot of demos before Cyberpunk came out, there was like RTX on and off. And then you can see like, the reflections and the lights
Right.
and everything is better. So obviously everybody wants the RTX on
Of
their
course.
NVIDIA RTX 4090 or whatever it is, right? The
Right.
latest card.
Right.
So you want to get the card in order to play the game, which is really cool. However, I think that those things are cool, but once you play the game and you have the RTX on and we have the graphics card, you really don't think about it. you're just playing the game and having fun. This is
Right.
just the thing. Maybe the first 5 minutes you're like, wow, so cool. But how many times do you actually spend standing somewhere looking at the world and like seeing the reflections? Very rarely. Normally you're just walking around, running
Right.
around.
Right. 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 Right.
That's what you do in the game. First thing you do, press that stick forward, discover, right?
Right. Right.
So I think those technologies should be almost invisible, even though they are there. And then after the game comes out, or even before, you can basically say we use this technology for our game, but not as a thing of like without this technology our game would be worse, but more like this has embellished our game in a way that actually you don't really even see it, right? And they have many things that actually can help us out, and we're still kind of testing a few things, and we
Okay.
won't mention anything, but
Of course.
but, but we're
You
gonna
don't want
meet
to
with
give
them.
it away.
Absolutely. We're going to meet with them on Gamescom and we're going to show them our latest demo. They're very excited about it. I was just talking
Nice.
to them recently and they keep asking us about the release date and stuff. So hopefully it works out because they are a really good partner to have and they have so many things going on. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think Dustin will be very happy about your answer. And like I said, he had a few questions, so I'm gonna get to this is the second of the three questions he
Yeah,
had.
go ahead. Go
All
ahead.
right, and this is another one specifically for you, Harvey. He says, "Whatever happened to multi GPU support? Why don't games offer that anymore?"
Oh, so I think
And
what has
GPU stands for what? Graphic processing units, right?
unit. Yeah. So
Okay.
basically,
Okay.
like the graphics card, like
Okay.
yeah. So there was different ways. I remember this like a few years ago. Like you could actually, like in the beginning, you could actually have more than one card in your computer, and if
Right.
you could handle it, it would be great. And then later on, it was a lot about like almost like when you remember when the CPUs like it has 16 cores and they have like eight
Right,
cores.
right, right. The
So that
Apple's real big about that stuff now,
yeah,
like
exactly.
32
So
cores.
32
Yeah.
core. So
Right.
GPUs kind of started doing the same thing about that, and
Okay.
I think the tech is very different, and I think that's the difference between multi-threaded GPUs and multi-threaded CPUs. Like I think if you look at any of the NVIDIA AI presentations as of late, you realize
Okay.
that instead of having multiple cores or multiple GPUs, they have a massive one like this. They say is the most powerful GPU ever invented. And I think that's the difference between like GPUs and CPUs, and you can use several of them. You can have a rack of GPUs if you actually have like AI or ChatGPT. They have like
Okay.
normally a rack of like PCs with massive GPUs, and they
Right.
basically it's basically a brain, right? But
Right.
for the home user, things have advanced so fast and NVIDIA is so good at making one graphic card that is absolutely beefy within a massive like amount of GPU within it within a graphic card that you can basically use that one. And it takes more power. And like I have an RTX 4090 right now, and absolutely it will actually consume more power, but at the same time you get way better graphics and things.
Right. Right.
So this is basically NVIDIA being badass. And for the home consumer, now they're actually going way above the home consumer at this point and selling to Googles and the Facebooks of the world. But yeah, like is overkill now. I think I'm think this is personal belief, but I do think that we talked about it in the last episode or the episode before then. I think we get into a point that graphics are not going to be the big thing going forward.
Yeah,
I
you
think
said last episode. Yeah.
yeah, I think graphics are now so realistic. If you play like the other day, I was watching this guy called Jack Frags. Shout out to Jack Frags. He'll probably never hear this. He's a big YouTuber guy that plays used to play a lot of Battlefield and stuff. And he was playing Battlefront 2 in 2024, and the game came out in 2016, 2017 or something like that. And he was saying like, how can a game like that is this old can look better than the games nowadays, right?
Wow.
And we were doing like what's it called? Photogrammetry? No, it's not that. I'm butchering the name. It's like telemetry, but for photos, right? And
Okay.
basically, we are mapping real places and real textures into objects, and then basically it kind of can stand the test of time much better.
Right.
And you can tell that the game that came that old, that was that old, can still look good nowadays. And I think more and more games are going to continue doing that, which means that later on, as you look back into games, like I think you're going to get to a point that we hit that max. And if you think about it, when was the last time, Kyle, that you thought about this game has amazing graphics?
I mean, honestly, the last game I was like, just this is amazing, was Ghost of Tsushima, and that was 2020, or like Last of Us 2. But
Exactly.
those are going on 4+ years old now. Like,
Exactly. And even Last of Us 2, like people were talking about the rope mechanic and all these
right,
other things instead of talking about how pretty it looks. Because
right.
I think like I mean, how can you top Ghost of Tsushima with those like sunsets and the grass, the
Oh
blade?
man, it's funny you mentioned
Like,
that, because it was like that was one of the last games I can remember playing, other than like an Assassin's Creed or Uncharted, where
yeah.
I would happen to be like running or climbing up something. I would stop and be like, "Yo, I got to take a picture and make this
Yeah,
my
yeah,
like
yeah.
or like screensaver or wallpaper." It was like
Yeah.
amazing, you know?
Exactly. I think they knew it because they had these moments that you could just relax, right? And
Yeah,
meditate. You could just like see the vistas and stuff.
yeah, like
Uh,
yep,
Yeah, exactly. But like, how much better do you want games to look, right? Like Ghost
right.
of Tsushima is not so much like revered for the looks; it's more revered for the mechanics of the game,
For the
and
mechanics
like,
and just the
right,
story is
the
amazing. Yeah.
story, like combat, all that stuff. So people don't talk so much about the graphics of the game, right? So I think that's basically what's gonna end up happening more and more. And this is why I think once again, even though GPUs are gonna get better with time, I don't think we kind of needed it like so much anymore, like before, because we are now going towards stylized games. People are very big into stylized shaders and all these other things. Like, what can make it a little bit more, organic? And I think that's the right way to go. Yeah.
Nice. Wow. Well, the last question that my friend Dustin had is, are you guys, I guess this pertains to both of us, but you would probably know first, Harvey. He says, are you guys at Proxima going to have some Jolly Worship Jolly Roger merch? And
Oh,
if so, he
yeah.
would recommend doing Funko Pops. Are you familiar with those
Oh,
Funko Pops?
Funko
Like,
Pops. Yeah. That's
like
cool.
doing some of like John and the different
Yeah, yeah,
characters.
Lisa
So
and
yeah,
Kowalski and stuff. That would be
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll definitely put a pin on it for sure, man.
Okay, okay,
Uh, but absolutely, we already have some. They just hidden in our shop. Like Kyle,
right.
you've seen, we have some that Mickey, our
The
creative
original
director,
illustrator. Yep,
illustrator for the comic. So he
yep.
created some like really cool ones, and we're gonna continue creating more. And whenever the time is right, we'll actually release them as
Nice.
merch and all that stuff. But one of the things that was big that came out of the Kickstarter that was like not successful for us is
Right.
that we realized through that Kickstarter that we need to make the IP and the game much more known out there so people can actually care for it, because that's I think
Yep.
the main crux of the problem with Kickstarter is that we care for it a lot of people that read the graphic novel care for it a lot, but people in general out there, they don't know exactly much about the
Yeah.
game
Like,
yet.
what is this? What are you
What is the
doing? What is?
game? What is
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
happen? Yeah, so we need to make that journey first, which is probably going to take a while, for some people to get excited about the game more than the graphic novel even, and get excited about John and the story and the characters and stuff. And then at that point, when people get excited and stuff, I think we maybe introduce some of that merch, because it helps us as well as a studio to
Yeah.
sell
For
that,
sure.
because that's
For
something
sure.
that is not for the publishers, is for us.
Right.
So yeah, that's the idea.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, Dustin, 3 for 3. Thank you so much, man. Keep the questions going. I mean, not only for you, but anybody. Like, you hit us up, leave comments on the YouTube videos, on our social media. We
Yeah.
have a Substack. You can find out more about whatever we're doing on Proxima. Follow the Substack. So yeah, man. I love engaging and hearing. It just makes you feel like you're not just talking into a vacuum when people actually like receptive and hearing like, oh, okay, and responding with questions.
100%.
It's
Yeah.
a good feeling.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Please keep them coming. Definitely
For sure.
subscribe to our newsletter. There's going to be more news from us in the game soon enough.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed over the next few months after Gamescom settles
Yeah.
down as well. So yeah, there's lots of stuff going on with the studio with us. So yeah, follow us and drop us questions, and say also ask Kyle questions, because Kyle has a really interesting background. You 100% should ask Kyle some questions.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. And I'll do my best. If it's audio centric, well, as it pertaining to games, I'll do my best. I would say outside of games, I know a lot. Like, well, I think I do because of my experiences in radio, music, podcast, film. Like, I've kind of done it all, and I love talking about it.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Well, until next episode, y'all, Proxima.studio is the place to go. That URL will lead out to all the different things we've talked about. Until next time, we make games as much as we love playing them. My name is K-Murdock, and this is Harvey Newman, and we are Proxima Studios. This is for the players. Till next time. Peace.
Peace.